You're unmuted. There you go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our regular meeting of council for March 19th, 2024. Just a quick couple notes out of the gates. Reed Jennings is on a vacation right now that was planned a long time ago. And we look forward to having her back in our next meeting for sure. We have a couple reminders. We have the Easter breakfast this Saturday, which is usually a very, very good turnout. I look forward to it at 9 a.m. at Rosedale Hall. You'll see the rec committee and council there flipping pancakes and bacon, so we look forward to that. We also have a paint night coming up on April 5th at Rosedale Hall. Sign up is online. And I know we just had our trivia night, and we also had the seniors had a very successful St. Paddy's Day dance too as well. So I think that's lots of great things going on in Montague, and it's great to hear. So open the meeting with our land acknowledgement. The council and staff of the Township of Montague acknowledge that this sacred land on which the Township of Montague is now located, and this meeting is now being held, is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. At this time, I'll ask for a moment of silence.
You don't throw the good Lord in there?
Thank you, everyone, for that. So we'll start out with the adoption of the agenda. So moved by Councillor Abbas and seconded by Councillor Crabtree. That's a regular meeting of council agenda dated March 19th, 2024. Be approved as amended this date to move items 8A, B, C, and G, and H from information to action. All in favor? That's carried. That was the option agenda, sorry. The no disclosure of interests, sorry. This part right? Yeah, so sorry. So moved by Councillor Crabtree and seconded by Councillor Abbas that the minutes of the regular meeting of council dated March 5th, 2024 be approved as presented. All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks. No disclosures of interests. Yeah, perfect. So, and business arising from the minutes from the previous minutes. And the first thing we have on is a delegation by David Marion. Please come up. You have 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
All right. Come on. Yeah. I was here 2 weeks ago at the regular meeting when one of the councilors resigned. Okay. At that time, this council had 60 days to make up their mind what they were going to do, either a by-election or they're going to appoint somebody to the seat. The council talked about it. They discussed it. They voted on it, and they passed the bylaw in 4.5 minutes. That the voters were not going to get to choose this. It was this council that was going to choose who was going to be sitting in those seats. Okay? And the reason given was it would be fiscally irresponsible to hold an election for the voters. Okay? This council passed a $7 million budget this year. $7 million. And even in that budget, it states, it shows you're putting money aside for an election. But your decision was to appoint somebody for the next 2.5 years, okay, that will, I take it, rubber stamp whatever you happen to be saying. I had this big long thing worked out. I'm not going to do that. Canada is a democracy, okay? But when autocrats turn it into an autocracy, it's not. Sorry, an autocracy. Okay? You can't just tell people that this is what's going to happen. All right? Now, you may be able to circumvent this by-election by doing it this way, but you should know the next election is in 4.5 years. You cannot circumvent that one. I really wish this council would reconsider their position okay, and vote in favor of the voters. That's it. I'll make it short and sweet.
We're sticking the truth, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marion, for that. It was well received from council as well, too, as well. So we'll move on to our first reports of municipal officers, the fire chief, water operator, for the annual water summary. It's not really one that everything looks pretty clear. I'm not expecting to come up and talk about it, Miles, because obviously there's when we go through the report and everything is clear and nice. I mean, obviously you're hitting all the ones that need to be done, and the water's coming back good, so we're good. So that's great. So thank you for doing all that
No problem.
and the diligence on making sure that the people of Vanorano have clean water. So moved by Councillor Abbas and seconded by Councillor Crabtree that the council approve the 2023 annual summary report for the Township of Montague as presented at this date. All in favor? And that's carried. So the next one on our list is, I think what most people are here for, is the filling of the vacant council seat. Take it away, Allison.
Thank you, Chair. So at the previous meeting of council, there was a report brought forward and council did declare Morgan Kenny's council seat vacant as of March 5th. At that time, it was noted that council has 60 days to fill the seat. So they had three options that were presented. Just choosing somebody, having a public application process, and or a by-election. Council chose the public application process, which is similar to Drummond North Elmsley, Mississippi Mills, Merrickville, others that have done the same. So with that, staff had to bring forward a procedure to fill the vacant councillor seat. So in front of you this evening is the procedure, which will identify and lay out the application requirements and the process for council and for the public. So there are recommended or draft timelines that would be followed to adhere to filling the seat within the 60 days. So if the appointment procedure is passed this evening, whether in draft or in an amended form, it would be posted tomorrow for the public and for applications to begin. There are a number of forms that need to be filled in, whether it's a by-election or whether it's a appointment procedure. Individuals have to fill notifying and declaring their qualifications to meet the requirements under the Municipal Elections Act. They need to provide freedom of information for us to release their name and their contact information, similar to an election. Almost every form is similar to the election, just a little different because it's filling a vacancy seat. So the wording is slightly different. So with that, it would be posted publicly until April 9th at 2 o'clock. Then the clerk, myself, would prepare an agenda and it would be released on April 12th with a public meeting at Rosedale Hall is the recommended location to council due to the potential public interest in sitting in and hearing the applicants. Basically, it's a job interview or a position interview where they would have 5 minutes to explain to council their platform, why they're running, those types of things. And then each council member would be able to ask each applicant a maximum of 2 questions. And also including the ability for the public to ask questions ahead of time. They'd be picked out of a hat and asked to the applicants as well. So that would be all in public. And then April 19th, there would be a special council agenda would be made public. And then on April 23rd, we'd have a special meeting where council would select and appoint by bylaw, and a declaration of oath would be taken by the new councillor. Again, this is in draft form for council to discuss this evening. There are a couple points that I would like to note. On the procedure document number 1 general, the township clerk or designate shall be responsible for interpreting and where appropriate facilitating the appointment application process. By all means, if council would like to hire someone as opposed to having myself do that, that's an option for you to really keep a third party to do that process, similar to debate, basically, that they would make sure that things follow that way. Procedurally, it would still be me, based on the procedural bylaw. And another one is that 4.7, so each council member would have the ability to ask 2 questions, and each applicant would have a maximum of 2 minutes to provide a response. That would be, again, would you like to provide 2 minutes? Is it a minute similar to a debate? Entirely up to council. 4.8, that we would choose 5 questions from the public questions received. Keeping in mind that the questions have to be appropriate and no cursing and those types of things as well. That 5 questions would be asked. By all means, you could remove this entirely or add additional questions. It's entirely up to council, how that would proceed. And that's kind of the full background of the procedure, but it's really up to council if there's any changes that they would like to see, or additions or deletions or those types of things.
Yeah, thank you, Alison. I mean, I think it's pretty well thought out as far as the way that we can replace the council position. It's tricky because obviously a by-election would be a democratic way to go. This is also this is also a way that's been done a lot in the past too as well. And I think it still is a very good decision for us to keep going with the direction that we're going. I'm okay with you running that side of it. If we feel like there's going to be a big crowd at Rosedale Hall, I mean, we could look at maybe bringing in a facilitator if that would be the need be. I like the question ideas as far as the 2 questions, and then getting the public to be able to ask some questions too as well to see what they are, because that also gives us the ability to as well, because we will listen to the public too as well, and people can obviously talk to us about their thoughts. And I think we're a pretty open group as far as listening to what would be the best candidate, what would be the best person to help sort of continue to guide the township for the next 2.5 years. So those are my sort of thoughts. If Gerald or Jim.
I read through this, it's very to the point, and like you said, it's very open, allows everybody to see what we're seeing, see the questions, and ask questions if need be. I do think this is the best way to do it, given that we did have only 60 days to fill the position. If we were to run an election, like some people would like, new applicants that have not been part of or would decide to throw their name in the hat would have a very short window to actually go and try to get elected. I'm not looking for anybody to say anything. I know you want to say something, but they would have a very short window because they would have to order signs, go boots to the door, and get out there and do it. So people who have not run before, who do not have a big name in this community, wouldn't have the same chance as somebody who isn't been here or has not been here for 10 years. Again, this is not a debate. This is just me giving out my statement.
Well, you were new, Mr. Crabtree. I never knew you, and you didn't even have to vote for you. We just.
100%, and but it was a different circumstance.
Okay.
Unfortunately, nobody ran.
Yeah.
Nobody ran. So it was a different circumstance. This way here, you will have an option to see what's said, and you'll have 4 people who I think have been doing a fairly good job, be able to vote on the new person coming in.
Sweet.
Karen gets a vote.
Yeah, kind of be, and you know what, and we will, well, I'm happy to facilitate questions, because we always do that. We're very open here too as well. We'll facilitate questions at the end of the meeting too as well, and we're happy to answer the questions too as well. I'm 100% happy to,
But I
because
think-
we want to have that conversation,
Yeah.
so.
But I think the document itself is very well written, and it does give us a lot of information to pick the best and most successful candidate.
Thanks, Gerald. Jim?
I think this is the best way to go. Same thing with the document. I mean, we had a choice of an election or doing it this way or picking somebody. And if we just pick somebody out of the hat or the one that had the most votes, that's not fair to the other ones that ran too. So I think this is the best way to put it out there, that everybody that ran before, even whether it was council or, Deputy Reeve or Reeve, they all have a shot at becoming a councillor. And the only thing else I can say is with Ally, as long as she has the time, I'm fine with her doing it. But I'm also agreeable if we want to hire Ron or Bob Howard or somebody to do it. I'm quite happy with that too.
Perfect. My other side would be the scoring matrix too, as well as I like the scoring matrix as a guide. And I think it's a great guide for potential candidates too, as well. That once again, maybe somebody new, somebody whatever, that they can look at it and go, okay, so what are the sort of criteria that would be useful to be sitting on council, will be helpful. I don't know if it's one that, we want to each score and then submit and say everything else. I think if we can agree that it's a good guide for us to use, and it's a good guide for the candidates to be able to see too as well, so.
It's a good guide, yeah.
Okay, any other further discussion at all, or? Sounds good. So let's move by Councillor Crabtree and seconded by Councillor Abbas. The council approves the appointment procedure for filling council vacancy and all associated attachments as presented this date in the staff report regarding the council vacancy declared on March 5th, 2024. The council approved the April 16th, 2024 regular meeting of council be held at Rosedale Hall to accommodate the public attendance. And the council called a special meeting for April 23rd, 2024 at 6 p.m. to select the councillor for the vacant seat. All in favor? That's carried. I look forward to seeing lots of the public on April 16th at that public meeting. All right, so we have reports of the committee, so we'll go through a bunch of these things now. So moved by Councillor Abbas and seconded by Councillor Crabtree, the council approved the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of March 5th, 2024, and approve the recommendations contained within. All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor Crabtree and seconded by Councillor Abbas, the council accept the Marrickville Library Board minutes from January 2024 as information. All in favor? Sure. Moved by Councillor Abbas and seconded by Councillor Crabtree. The council accepts the Marrickville Library Board minutes from the February 2024 as information. All in favor? Carried. We have no petitions. We do have a bylaw for the sale and order of this specific land, of township land. So that moved by Councillor Crabtree and seconded by Councillor Abbas. That bylaw 4060-2024, a bylaw to establish a policy for the sale of other disposition of township owned lands. We read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed, sealed on this 19th day of March 24. All in favor? That's carried. Just that's all the information ones, right? So it's so real quick, we had some information items that are out there. I always like to pull the information items that I think that are really relevant as far as, and I want to acknowledge Maggie's email that was sent into as well about the requesting of a by-election too as well. So I want to make sure that it's acknowledged and I bring that up as far as that goes. Another one I want to bring up, and this is a big hot topic that's been going on, really more through the county too as well, but it's relevant to what's going on in our neck of the woods too as well. And we talk about the homelessness, and it's maybe shocking to people, but we do have homelessness in Lanark County. There's information in there. The first part is there's a gentleman that's coming in. I always say his name wrong, but they're Ivan De Jong, and he's he speaks openly about homelessness and about ways that we can look at destigmatizing it and also looking at ways to end it too as well. Because it kind of brings me to the next one is we're trying to give them more information from the county too as well as we deal with the homelessness issue, and we're trying to find different avenues too as well. Everybody's heard about what we're trying to do. I hope that you've heard what we're trying to do at the old Willowdale. Looking at that as far as a homeless opportunity too as well. But when we look at the amount of homelessness and we have a list, and they do their best to try to manage how many people that are homeless, unfortunately, in our community. And we do have 62 people that are actively homeless that are in Lanark County. So we do have the encampments, we do have people that are homeless. And there's a lot that, and when we all can admit that the rising cost of everything too, as well as also has increased that too as well. So like really trying to figure out ways to help tackle that, because if we don't look at ways of tackling it, we have seen in many communities, and I can use Belleville as an example, and I can use Waterloo as an example. Belleville was the most recent one that declared it an epidemic with all of the issues that's going on with that. So a big part of it is the more that we talk about it and that we can try to get ahead of it, we won't hopefully go down the avenues of some of those municipalities that are really, really now struggling with that situation. So I want to highlight those areas because they're there. Another one that was brought up, that was an email that just kind of talked about the tax due date changes and everything else. And I think it's a very valid point where somebody brings in saying about the water bills and the tax bills coming out, and it's a big chunk of money, kind of out of the gates. And there was a kind of a note in there talking about, looking at different processes and everything else. And it's one of those ones we want to continue to talk about. And I'm sure staff would talk about it too, as well, of the opportunities of signing up for monthly payments for that. I mean, I know I do that for tax billing purposes and everything else, to try to make sure that managing that bill side of it out too as well. We have tax bills, we have municipal taxes. Our taxes are quite reasonable when you look at them through the province and in the county. We're right in the middle of the road as far as that goes. So, but I mean, obviously we have different avenues as far as trying to help out with that. If I'm missing anything else, and as far as the monthly payments thing and everything else, it's pretty well about it. But yeah, so I mean, like we do sympathize, we do understand, and we want to do the best we can to help make people, make it easier for people. So we do have that kind of stuff that's in place too as well. My last point, and I'll stop rambling. We can go to the next part, and I can go to some questions from the audience. Is I always like to talk about the media releases that we do with the county, because there's a lot that goes on in the county that does have impacts that are coming down here. So at the county, we did pass our climate action review, and we passed the budget for that too as well. The most thing that's probably the biggest thing for Montague is that there's climate options that are climate money that is then passed back down from the county down to the municipalities to work on initiatives for climate. The biggest one that we did last year, and we'll talk about ones that we can do this year, is the composting program. So like running a composting program throughout our municipality would be ludicrously expensive. So like obviously it doesn't work, but we want to see how we can reduce garbage and reduce all of that. I know I think a lot of us compost as it is, or we throw it to our chickens or our cows. But we do have composters here that are free of charge for people too as well to use. So like we strongly recommend, if that's something that you can do or you're looking to do, we have that option too as well. We also the striking committee, they passed the traffic advisory working group. That working group, we've been working at this the last little while at the county. We're trying to have a plan, look at ways to make our roads a little bit safer. Now I will just bring up the council too as well, that Morgan was supposed to be our person that was on it, but I remember at the meeting I had said that I would be the alternate. So I did mention at the county saying that that I would be happy to, like the next strike committee, they would add me to that group. If we want to go back to that, we can do that. So that's fine. Okay, we agree with that. So that's good. And that's pretty well from the media releases as far as the county goes. So, moved by Councillor Abbas and seconded by Councillor Crabtree. The council accept the information items presented this date as information. All in favor? That's carried. And before we end the meeting, this is the one we've always done, is because we like to hear from the public too, as well as we have any questions from the audience. We're happy to hear them and try to comment them the best we can. So if we have any questions from the audience, please share your hand. And Miss Maggie.
I'm here. Regarding the appointment procedure, the presentation to council from Rosedale Hall, is that going to be live streamed? Because I know the audio there is really bad.
Yep, so we'll be bringing our owl friend with us, and it'll be live streamed.
It'll be live streamed? Thank you. Follow up. On page 32, it says communication using other methods may also be used where appropriate. What does that mean? are you gonna put something in the paper? You're
For
gonna,
dispensing this out to the public, you mean? So
Yeah.
we're gonna be using our bi-weekly newsletter, our social media. Basically that it leaves it open that, because there is a small print paper as well, that we can put in an ad in there saying that we're going to be doing something. We're gonna try and get it out as best as we can. Unfortunately, without having a newspaper that gets put on everybody's doorstep now, it's a little more difficult.
German goes in mailboxes.
And the timing of getting it into the tax bills did not make the resignation as well.
I know, somebody from CBC also reached out, recently about saying, hey, do you have like local news stories and that kind of stuff that, you know, we might want to share? And I think that's an opportunity too as well, to maybe just reach back out to that too as well, and even to Lake 88 too as well, and kind of say, hey, this is what's going on, to try to get at that too as well, so.
Cause not everybody's on the internet.
Nope,
Oh, we agree, I know, yeah. Most people that aren't on the internet, they do this until Lake 88, so hopefully we can get kind of both sides of it, then
We
we
started
can.
getting a newspaper in the last month from the Journal out of Montreal, based out of Smith Falls, delivered with the mail.
The journal, yeah.
yeah,
The journal, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
that's what we talk about, yeah, we do, yeah, I like it too, I get it in my email too as well, so it's good,
Yeah.
it's good, yeah, so. Maggie, you have another one? Yeah.
under the declaration of qualifications, page 35, for the second one. What is this in English? It says, I am not a person who is not an employee of the township. So that's a double negative, right? So
Yeah.
that means
so
that the
this is,
person can be,
this is a form that's literally given from the municipal, it's the exact same as our municipal
It doesn't make
elections
sense.
document. It's given from the municipal elections.
so it's a
Act.
double negative, so that means it can be somebody
No,
who
it-
is a clerk treasurer.
No, it cannot.
But it says can.
You cannot be an employee of a municipality. It's right in the Municipal Elections Act.
But
We
it
can-
says
we can
that
think
not a person who is not.
We can look at the document and just verify it, that it's correct, but under the Municipal Elections Act, you cannot be a paid employee of a municipality, other than a volunteer firefighter.
What is an administrative position that is not an employee?
We don't have any.
Okay. And I have one more regarding this thing here. The counselor vacancy scoring matrix. Sounds really impressive. Did you say you're not going to score these actually?
So that, we just talked about it tonight, because one of the ideas when that came out was, you know, is that gonna be the scoring matrix? I believe it's better as more of a guideline, so people can kind of see what would be like good things to be looking at or good things to scoring on. So good for the candidate to see, you know, like what would make them relevant or really good for that position, and then good for like us looking at it too as well, maybe if we have questions. So like,
Not
wouldn't
gonna-
wouldn't be like, this is what it's gonna be. It's just
So
more,
the person that gets the most numbers
yeah,
is not necessarily gonna be the first person up for a council vote.
yeah, because we, depends on how we decide that, like, and each person can score it.
Well, the questions are very subjective.
They are, exactly, yeah. So there's more, that's why I suggested that we make it more of a guideline, not the, this is what is going to be the checking of the points.
Okay. And I understand that there are some people thinking of running who are going around getting endorsements. Is that gonna have any bearing on your decision?
I think, I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, and I'll definitely give Jim and Gerald a chance to say that if, but I think we want to listen. I mean, at the same token, I mean, if people want to come and talk to us about it, either, you know, calling us up, sending us an email so we can have it,
No,
we have a
not to
chat.
you.
Well, but no, but with those endorsements though, like, I mean, that's helpful, I think, is having more public endorsements, because if there's more public talking to us saying, hey, we think this candidate's really strong, I mean, I would listen to that, so
So that would have a bearing on your decision?
it could, I mean, I think it would, I think anything the public talks to us about is going to have a bearing on that decision, in my opinion.
We'll sit and listen to it, that's for sure.
I would also like to thank you for bringing my email forward. That email was sent out to all of council, and you are the only person that had the courtesy to even answer it or even acknowledge it. So on this thing that says ability to respond to community questions, this council wouldn't score very well.
So I'd like to.
Unless
respond-
everybody's got me under spam by now.
I'd like to respond to that. You never sent it to my email.
What?
So I looked when I saw this on here. You never sent it to my email.
Yes, I did. If you look at the
If
top,
you
your
give me a
name's on
moment,
it.
I'll gladly talk. If you
If you
want to
look
let
at
me.
the top of the email, your email address is on it.
It's not,
It's the
it's
email
not the
address that is
Montague,
off the
It's not-
council page.
it is not the Montague Township email. That was the one I used for when I was going to go and run for councillor. It was an email that I created. It's also an email I closed.
It's the one listed on.
No, it's not the one, it's not the one listed on
I
the
took it off
township.
the council page.
I'm letting you
Never
know
That's fine.
that it's not my email.
Perfect. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you. Is there any other questions from, yeah, sure, for, yeah, Claus, sure.
Thank you, Deputy Reed. My question is for you to our clerk. Just a clarification, Allison, in regards to the public being at the meeting at the Rosedale Hall, the public can ask questions. Is council answering those questions or the potential candidates?
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
So based on the procedure, the questions that are asked in advance are going to be to the candidates.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm throwing right left field here, in this one.
Sure.
Worked for the government, federal government for 35 years. 95% of the employees in our sector was a best friend, brother, cousin, aunt, uncle, or somebody who was associated with that person. That's not going to happen in this procedure, is it?
I don't believe so.
Oh, that's good.
In my opinion, I've done this in my professional life in the past too as well. Like, I'm looking for someone that's going to be the best candidate for the job that's
Amen.
open, and that's basically
or woman.
what I'm looking for. The person that I'm looking for is what I'm looking
I
for.
was speaking with Karen before, and she mentioned that if people want to work from home and do the Zoom stuff, they should be allowed to do that. Well, we go over to Zoom, and I'd like to see you sitting there. I'd really see her, but she's in holidays. I understand that.
I like being here in person too as well. I prefer it
It's
too
nice
as
to have
well. I 100% do. That Zoom thing that we did for the COVID world was, there's nobody that I've talked to, that in the political world that enjoyed that. The reason why I did this is I much prefer this. I love having people here. I think this is like, I mean, I wish we're talking about this sort of thing that comes up, but I mean, I really prefer, the person to person.
A compliment to you, Deputy Reed. I've been at council meetings before, and I don't think they've ever had at the end. Anybody got any questions? It's usually, okay, you got 3 seconds, get up and get out.
We do try to, and I think we do have it, but I like I said, like this, we want to have these talks with people, like this is what we want to do, and I appreciate the questions too as well. Any burning ones from online? No burning questions from online. Maggie's got, oh, you've already had your questions, Maggie. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I have a question on the questions.
Sure.
Is there any point in putting in a question after the motion is passed? For instance, I had questions last week that don't go to the end of it. You can't answer them until the end of the meeting. So if the motion is already passed, is there any point in me putting that question in? What's the procedure if my question actually made you think twice about what you've done?
Great
Does
question.
that have to be
So, yeah,
rescinded or what, how does that work?
so you can go back and you can correct it. You want to explain it?
Do you want me to take it?
You explain it better. than me,
Sure.
maybe.
So thank you. So Maggie, so obviously if it's committee of the whole, absolutely, because at committee of the whole, whenever committee approves it, it doesn't actually get approved by council until the next meeting. So even though it's at the end of the meeting, council is not making that decision until the council meeting. If something, let's say you miss a committee of the whole, or if something has to go to council immediately for some kind of an emergency, council still has the ability in the procedural to bring back an item. So if you bring something up that maybe is new information and they had not thought of, they can vote with 2/3 vote to bring that item back. So absolutely, it's still important to put your questions forward. I think this council really wants to know what your questions are and hear from you. So always put your question in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one last
And
one.
I do exactly agree with that too as well, because we always want to hear. So yeah, sure. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I have one question.
Sure, Dave.
2 weeks ago is when you voted on the bylaw, okay, to appoint somebody as opposed to the by-election. Okay, when was that information forward? I thought she resigned on 2 weeks ago. So therefore, you can't ask a question, or I can't, you should have just told me there was no point in doing a delegation because the bylaw's already been passed. And this council won't change their mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Chair, through you, so we received notice that there was an intent to step down on the Friday before our Tuesday meeting. So we did up a quick report to get it on to Tuesday. There was no bylaw passed last week in relation to how this process is going.
Not the process. 2 weeks ago, the bylaw was passed that you weren't gonna do a by-election, okay? You were
There was no
gonna
bylaw.
choose somebody.
There was no bylaw. So that was just a report and council passed a resolution to approve that process. So this is where I'm saying is that in terms, whenever it's very short timelines, grants, sometimes I like that too. It went right to council. Council could have deferred, they could have done whatever at that meeting. You can still bring up your concern that you have brought forward saying that you would like a by-election. Council with 2/3 vote, if there was new information that was brought forward, could have voted to bring that back to the table.
But they didn't.
But they had, the procedure allows for it. So that's where I'm saying is that you can still ask your questions after because there is still a procedure.
Okay.
Perfect. Maggie's got one more question.
I have one last question.
Okay.
This will be the last one, honestly. I would like to know who decides the protocol as per our flag being at half-mast? I did send an email to the clerk and she did answer me, thank you. But I don't think we're following the proper protocol.
Who died?
Mulrooney.
Come on, Rooney.
Back in February.
Oh, he was.
Well, this is the
I
one-
can
this is
take
the one-
that
this is the one
I
back in-
don't-
this is the
I
one
don't
back in
like
February.
them, but it's.
Yeah,
I
I can take.
No, but
I
out of
can take it.
respect, you follow the protocol.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we do have policy and it is up to my position and we've decided, I made the decision to lower the flag to half-mast during his funeral time. Otherwise, it would have been half-mast for 4 weeks, which was longer than the Queen of
Which
England.
is where everybody is.
Not
right now.
everyone has.
Smith Falls is down, Beckwith is down.
Some
Perth is
have,
down.
absolutely.
The school up the road is down.
Everyone has different policies. So I'm not saying what's right or wrong. Council can definitely direct for that policy to come back and to go off the federal policy or whatever the case is. So ours will be down again. So the prime example is that everyone has forgotten why it's even down. Because there was also the killings in Ottawa that some of them are down for. There's been a number. So we thought that we would do it for the funeral.
Makes sense.
Question?
So it is your decision
It is, yep,
for the federal flag.
yep.
Okay.
I have one more petty question. I'm sorry.
All mine are petty.
The moment of silence was brought in by Bill way back years ago. And even at that time, he never told me what the moment of silence is for. What are we silent for?
My understanding was,
What is it for?
my understanding was it started at the county, they would do it there to sort of remember, maybe somebody that we lost or just to remember, to reflect on something positive in what's going on in the township. It's just that moment of silence to just reflect on something personal or something that's in your area that, and it's something that was adopted. And we've continued it, so.
I checked into that. All the laws and the rules were based on biblical principles. I'm serious. And even in the county, when you go up there and you have to get up and speak, they swear in the Bible.
Yep.
I thank them for every time I go up there.
Yep.
And that's what it's based on. No disrespect to the indigenous, thing. I can't pronounce it very well, but that's what it's based on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, sir, you go ahead.
Perfect day. Do you have a question?
No.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just agreeing,
That's perfect, yeah, thank you, yeah. Yes, Claus, yeah,
Your explanation is right on, sir.
thank you. I guess you would have been up in the county when that happened too as well, right? Anyway, you brought it back here, right? So,
Correct.
thank you for confirming that I was right, that's good.
Where's the Bible taken?
Pardon?
Where's the Bible taken?
If you're sworn into a particular office, when the reeve is sworn in, or when the new warden is sworn in, then the Bible kicks in.
Yeah, you have the choice of of swearing on the Bible or not too as well. So, I mean, I think
Traditionally, we've always done.
we have 100%, yeah. I know I did when I did, and the rest of our council did too as well. So, but I just want to stake that.
I wasn't sworn into anything except to tell the truth. I did that with the Bible, yeah.
I knew that because my mom told me to.
Yes, sir. That's your mother.
Hosea, she was a great woman for sure. Any other questions? This is great. That was probably the most, biggest dialogue I think I've had since I've been on council. So thank you for that.
Well, I've been here a lot longer than you. This is the best one I've been to.
So it's that's good.
No, it's very relaxing, which is good. Usually you feel so tight, afraid to park the case. Well,
I appreciate you kept it in anyways. Moved by Councillor Godfrey and seconded by Councillor Bass, that bylaw 4061-2024, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at this regular meeting held on Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. Be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed, and sealed this 19th day of March 2024. All in favor? And it's carried. Moved by Councillor Bass and seconded by Councillor Crabtree, that council adjourn the regular meeting of March 19th, 2024 at 6:40 PM until April 2nd, 2024 at 6 PM, or the call of the chair. All in favor? That's carried. We'll just pause for a minute until we switch over to the committee of the whole, which there's a lot of good information in the committee of the whole too as well. So I hope everybody's staying back and listening in. It works good. We're back online. Hey, we're back online. Welcome back, everybody, for our committee of the whole meeting. So we're gonna open the meeting with our land acknowledgement again. So the council and staff of the Township of Montague acknowledges that the sacred land on which the Township of Montague is now located and this meeting is being held is on the ancestral and ceded territory of the Algonquin Shawnee Nation. So our adoption of the agenda, moved by Councillor Abbas and seconded by Councillor Crabtree, the committee of the whole agenda dated March 19th, 2024, be approved as presented this date. All in favor? That's carried. So our first thing on the docket is talking a little bit about some of the Section 28 changing of the Conservation Act, which Kirsten is going to walk through nicely.
I don't have a place to set my truck anymore.
Take it away, Kirsten. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Council. So anytime I get some information in the planning world that I think will be of interest to Council and members of the public, I like to share that with you. And we've got some new changes coming with respect to the Conservation Authorities Act, effective April the 1st, April Fool's Day, but it's not a joke. Yeah, that's the only funny thing you're gonna get out of me all night. Okay, so Bill 23, which you'll probably all recall, sort of started the drive towards more homes. And Conservation Authority had several of their scope of review removed, including wildlife, endangered species, and hydrogeological assessments. And so their authority's basically been restricted to natural hazards. That would be things like wetlands and floodplains, water courses, and drinking water. So as of April the 1st, Section 28 of the Act, you'll see in the report that there have been a substantial number of changes. So the report is a little bit more fulsome, but I'll just highlight some of the key points. So right now we have 36 conservation authorities, and each one of them has its own regulations. They all have their own rules about how they address development. Those 36 regulations are being revoked. There will be one regulation that will apply to everyone. The definition of watercourse has been amended. It's better than it was. At least it's a little clearer for people who are reviewing planning applications to state that it's defined channel as opposed to a depression in the ground, and that there has to be continuous water flow. The one that will probably be of most interest is the reduction of the regulated area. So for anyone who's in the audience and has done planning applications, right now the regulated area is 120 meters from a provincially significant wetland, and it's being reduced to 30. So that means that within 30 meters, RVCA will still be required to issue permits, but it doesn't mean that you don't need a minor variance. It doesn't mean that you don't need planning approval. It doesn't mean that you can do anything you want between the 120 and the 30 meter mark. It just means that RVCA doesn't issue permits. The next section is exemption of low risk activities. So there are some activities that people will contact the Conservation Authority to undertake. And the Conservation Authority has deemed that these ones would be less impactful and wouldn't require permits. And they include things such as fencing, perhaps an unenclosed deck of 15 square meters in size or less, maybe repair or maintenance of your driveway if it is within the regulated area of the Conservation Authority. I would always recommend that you contact the Conservation Authority just to ensure that what you're proposing to do is in fact a low risk activity. Sometimes you might sell something a little short, but when the conversation evolves, it might not be a low risk activity. So you should always have a pre-consultation with the Conservation Authority on any development. And the last two items mostly deal with administration at RVCA or any conservation authority. So when RVCA issues a permit, they can issue it with conditions. And the new regulation requires that those conditions have to be appropriate. They have to relate to prevention of destruction or mitigation of impact, and the administrative components, so processing, reporting, and compliance with the regulations. The rules that they've created mostly relate to transparency. So we want to make sure that the process is fair. It's the same for everyone. It's clear. Their mapping will be updated regularly. They want to have pre-submission consultations with members of the public. They've outlined their permitting requirements. They're very clear. Their fees are public. And they're going to be preparing annual performance reports. And these performance reports will be public documents for members of the public to see. And I don't think I have anything else, but I will answer questions if you have any.
So thank you, Kirsten. I mean, I had asked you a couple of questions and you had looped it into your presentation before the meeting, so that's good. So those questions were answered and then shared nicely with everybody else. I think it's a nice thing too as well. We're seeing it's great that there's in the Conservation Authority that there's like sort of one rule, because we've heard that before with RBCA and Rideau Valley, that there's difference between them, and then somebody else will say like something's going on in Greater Madawaska, do something different there. And so it's nice that this is something I know I've talked about for years, and there's been a big push to sort of say like, hey, we got to like tone this down, temper this back, and make sure that it makes sense. And I think this is a move in the right direction. It still makes sure that we're protecting the lands. We're not like going willy-nilly or that, right? So I mean, but it's more in the sense that it's streamlining it, making it a little bit easier. And the pre-consultation one, that's one that we've always talked about too as well. It's a big one. And we did look on Conservation's website, and there's not really any fees for
I
that.
don't see any fees.
So, and if we do find something, we'll definitely talk about that. But it is always we talk about it here at the office for any type of building applications, everything else of a pre-con to come and talk to you. I mean, it's just a quick conversation to make sure that things can go smoothly. The same idea, if you have that conversation with the Conservation Authority, it can help make things go smoother down the road too as well. And if you do have that conversation with them too as well, and something they told you one thing and they want to change it, at least we're there to support too as well, right? So it's so I appreciate that. On that note, if I have any questions from council at all.
No,
Right,
it's
pretty
nice to get the
straightforward.
updates when
Nice
something
update,
changes a bit.
Staff have a really good working relationship with RBC. I've found that they're very responsive to my questions. I mean, when I received this information, this memo, I reached out to them with questions and received a response like practically instantaneously. And I think it is key that, we talked about the pre-consultation. We want to make sure that people that are proposing development are doing so blindly. We want to be upfront with you with, what you can anticipate as far as process and costs. And I think this is just one more step in the right direction in making it a better process.
And I think it'll go in line with we've done a lot of the plan, a lot of the stuff at planning, and people don't know what's going on in the county, but we've literally changed the whole planning department up in the county. It's a lot smoother. You made comments of that too as well, how it works a lot better now too as well. So there's been a lot of changes up there, especially in the last 6 months. We literally just hired somebody, the last person too as well. Recently, they're just gonna start soon too as well. And then we're looking at digitization and everything else, and it's gonna make it easier to do that when we have the pre-consultations and everything else. So there's definitely movement that we've been working on to try to get things in that right direction. And this is kind of falling in line too as well to make it, I think, a little bit better for that too as well. So, well, I appreciate that, Kristen. I think that's really good information.
Always
I think it's helping us.
open door, open phone
yeah.
line, reach out. I'm here.
Thank you, Kristen. That's great.
Thank
So-
you.
Thank you.
So yeah, so moved by Councillor Crabtree and seconded by Councillor Bassett. The council receives Section 28 of the Conservation Authorities Act report as presented this date as information. All in favor? And that's carried. Next is policing, and it's about sort of the new way that we're doing it as far as the detachment board. And I think Allison's going to give us a quick explanation of that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the Lanark County OPP Detachment Board is to be effective April 1st. So in the meantime, we have a transition board that's working to put together some policies and just some process to ensure that they start off kind of on the right foot. With that was a draft budget based on a 20-person committee. So now there's still discussions at the transition board level, we are the biggest attachment board. And it's gonna be very difficult to move forward with 20 people sitting around a table. So there's still discussion of potentially lowering those, requesting a lower number to the province, but nothing is set in stone. So the budget is based off a 20-person board and, which is 8 members of council, 8 community members, and 4 provincial appointees. With that, keeping in mind, again, it's to be effective April 1st, but there's mandatory training that the province is requiring each board member to have prior to being able to have a board meeting, and they haven't made up the training yet. And it's March 19th. So anticipated that it will not be effective April 1st. So this is a high-level draft budget. This is kind of a worst-case scenario if the numbers stay at 20. So what they've done is calculated based off weighted assessment, same as our Provincial Offences Act agreement with the town of Perth. So our share would be 3.72% of the total budget. Our current police service board budget that we have in Montague was $3,600 in our 2024 budget. This new one will be $6,250. Keeping in mind, it'll be only based on from whenever they start to the end of the year, which we're not sure what time that will be. So we do have a slight increase in relation to costs, but our increase is substantially less than some of the other municipalities, to be honest. So at this time, it's recommended for council to go ahead and approve the draft, keeping in mind that there could be changes and that number could come down if the board member numbers come down. We do have this position posted right now too, though, for community rep, in case anybody's interested, to put your name in.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Allison. I know, I think, Reed Jennings will be is the representative right now. So I think we'll continue with that. And then it'd be great to hear from the public as far as that goes. I mean, this was an idea to go bigger, because right now, us as individual municipalities, just to give a little bit of a background on that, it's tough to have police services boards and have discussions with police and everything else, as everybody's kind of talking in silos. It's great kind of to bring everybody together to kind of work together with the problems that are out there and hopefully to come up with some solutions and everything else. And I guess one question I do have about the budget side of it too as well. Like, I mean, a lot of that budget is there's conferences in there, there's professional fees and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if they only ended up spending $130,000, like obviously like the worst case scenario would be the $6,200, but it could come in less if they don't spend the full budget too as well, right? Or do they plan on keeping that to go to a reserve?
So it depends on, again, they're a separate board.
Yeah.
Right? So we're just trying to assist in getting things in place so that they're not starting at zero whenever these new members get put on this board. So they have to go to each municipality though, each year for the budget to be approved. So at this time, I think it was anticipated that if there's some savings, it may go into a reserve for potential traffic calming measures, things like that might be shared purchases between the group. But I can't speak to that because
It's so new.
the board hasn't even been established yet, and what they're going to bring forward. But we as individual municipalities will have a say on their budget.
Yeah, and we're all having the same vote too as well. So even though we're only paying, I know it was floated out there to have a weighted vote by the biggest ones. But that was quickly discussed about not doing that. So we don't want to have a weighted vote. We want to make sure that each municipality has their own, especially us because we're the smallest. That was brought to our attention, and both Reed Jennings and I were very quick to state our strong displeasure if that discussion continues further. So we will continue, and there's other municipalities also that do not want to have that too as well. So we will continue to stay on top of that too as well. Any other questions from council at all? No. That's great. Thanks, Ellie. That's a good update from all this. So moved by Councillor Abbas and seconded by Councillor Crabtree. The council approved the proposed draft 2024 budget for the Lanark County OPP Detachment Board, the allocation of costs for the respective municipalities within the Lanark County based on weighted assessments. All in favor? That's carried. The next thing is the agenda is the one thing that I was hoping that people would come out for is the roads need study, that we will be going forth because we talk about roads and we talk about, everything that we do in our roads. And this document is a very critical document that we've been using obviously for a while now. And we really went through this process. I remember my first term in council too as well to go through all of our roads and really make sure that we are doing our best to maintain our roads with the budget that is in front of us. We obviously don't have the money to go and pave the 99 kilometers of or 98 kilometers of dirt road we have. It'd be nice if we did,
No,
but some people don't even want paved roads. That's good too as well. But I mean, I think the biggest thing is this is a good guiding document about how we can do it. Ali's going to talk a bit about sort of the that we went into tender for it. So.
Thank you, Chair. So, in the absence of a public works manager, the previous public works manager had posted this and got it out. It closed since he's left. So, it has been scored, that we had, 4 submissions. They were scored, based off the scoring matrix that was included in the RFP so that everybody knows what they're being scored on. So based on, there was a $30,000 budgeted item for this. The lowest firm that scored the highest, because the financial aspect was the biggest component to the scoring, was just over $17,000 plus non-refundable portion of HST. So substantially under budget. Now included in the RFP was not so there is inclusion for the consultant to come to council meeting in a public session and take questions from council and bring back. I'm requesting that council, so in the submission, there was some extras that could be added to what we were requesting. One of the extras was to assist at a public consultation so that we would have basically an open house at Rosedale for residents to be able to ask the consultant how they came up with certain roads and where that came from. Again, this council has made it pretty clear that they want the public involvement. So the notice that we were going to have this was also in our messenger that went out with all of our tax bills. The date has not been set, but just saying, hey, and if you want to be on the list, give us your email or telephone number and we'll let you know when the date comes available if you don't use internet. My request is that we do have an additional $5,000 because we are substantially under budget to make sure, and I'm not saying it's going to cost $5,000, but just to potentially do an extra public consultation, to have that open house, to allow the people to come in, because those are the most amount of questions we get are about roads, and potentially prepare 2 10-year plans, one that would include a plan that fits with what we currently have for a budget and what it would mean to maintain at the service level that we are with future inflation impacts. Obviously, it's a bit of a guessing game in the sense of what's going to happen and what those shortfalls might be. I will not, so with that additional $5,000, I will always bring an update to council and make sure that that's the direction you guys are looking for on those additional funds being spent. But I think that the public consultation or that open house is probably one of the most important aspects to this whole process because of the number of questions that we get.
Thank you, Ali. I think, I mean, it was interesting. I remember doing this in my first year at council. We went through it too as well. I remember we did request, we requested the consultant that came in from MacPerry to do a delegation of council, which was not one of the requirements, but I remember we asked for that too as well, saying we want to ask some pointed question, everything else. I think this is a great expansion of it too as well, to get it to the public too as well. We want the public to come out and, I mean, obviously give their opinion, but also be able to see what we're budgeting, what we're up against, what we're doing too as well. One thing I'm excited about is that once again, in that first year that we did it, all of our numbers that we had in the roads need study were guesstimates. We didn't have traffic counts. We didn't do that. One of the things that we did over the last 4 or 5 years now, but 4 years really, we purchased traffic counters along with the speed counter. So we have traffic counts of every single road in our township, so we know what the traffic volumes are. So that's going to be very impactful to this process too as well. We have the speeds and all that kind of stuff too as well, which is fantastic. But I think this roads need study is really going to be like the next step too as well, of what we did on the first one, that with the traffic counts and the information, all the information that we have, to do the best we can with the budget that we have. We have a great 4-year cycle right now, which is like, most municipalities do not have a 4-year cycle. They have a 5 or a 6-year cycle on gravel maintenance. And, you know, we might want to look at options about saying how we can improve on that and everything else. And I'm really looking forward to feedback, obviously from our consultants about that, but also from the public too, as well, of their sort of thoughts as they look at the documents and actually look at the information and look at the dollars and cents that's there too as well. I know I have scratched my head and read through that document hundreds of times over the year, or the few years. I had lots of conversation with Steve as we try to figure out different ways, and Steve was fantastic. We all can attest to that. As trying to work the roads need study. We have a new person, Ian, that's starting, coming from the county, that's very knowledgeable too as well. And I look forward that I think we can continue to find the ways to best maintain dirt roads. We're always gonna have potholes. Drive anywhere in this province, and I dare you to find places that don't have potholes. But we're gonna do everything we can to try to make sure that we mitigate that best as possible. So that's my thought process on this, and I really look forward. This is one of my favorite documents to refer to. So, any questions? Yeah, Gerald, for sure.
No, I completely agree. I think it's great that we'll have a public meeting that will be able to get public input and get their real concerns and their issues and where they think we're falling short. And then maybe we can use that information to better make the public happy. You know, that realistically, that's what the whole intent is, to make the public as happy as we can without gouging and taking as much money from you as possible. It'd be great, like you said, to pave and or make it a really nice gravel road. But whatever that might be, it's, you know, we want to do it without hitting everybody's pocketbook as much as possible.
I think it's very transparent by doing it that way too.
Yeah.
Transparent with what's going on.
As open as we can be, and try to get as much information as possible. So, thanks, guys. So, moved by Councillor Crabtree and seconded by Councillor Abbas, that Councillor authorized staff to award the roads need study to Alpine and Martin Consultants Limited in the amount of $17,123.15 plus HST, and the council authorize the clerk administrative treasurer to work with the consultants to provide additional information required to a maximum of $5,000. What was the after HST? Sorry to put you on the spot there. I always like that number after the HST. That's what
It's only a small.
That's all I know. It's only
only
1.75. Yeah. All in favor? Sorry, I'll go right there.
Grabbing information.
I do, yeah.
So you're looking for it with the 5,000 included?
Yeah.
Or just on its own?
I thought it's more like the 75. I always like it with after the HST, like is the total cost, because that's what really comes off our budget every day. So.
Instead of it being $17,125, it'd be $17,426. So it's about $300 difference.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Just good to have for that. All right, thank you. We're gonna move on to the Rideau, so the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority Board appointment. Councillor Kenny was our appointed person, so I think Ali will give us a quick synopsis of that. But.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, Councillor Kenny was the appointed member to the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority. So in 2022, they made changes to the Conservation Authority Act that no longer allowed a community rep, because Montague had a community rep for a number of years. So unless the treasurer applies to the minister for an exemption. So far, any municipality that has applied to the minister for an exemption has been shut down. So therefore, we need a council member to be appointed. There are a couple options, obviously, for council to consider this evening. You can leave it vacant until such time that the new council position is appointed, and potentially leave it open for that individual to fill that position as well, as Councillor Kenny did. You can choose someone amongst yourselves to sit on the committee, and we'll bring back a bylaw and replace immediately and notify RVCA, or request an exemption from the minister to allow for community rep, and see if we're successful in that process. We have already notified RVCA that we're down our council member, and it may not be filled until potentially May. So they are aware of that. But this evening, council will have to make a decision so that I can move forward on whether it'll come back once that council position is filled, and or whether you're going to appoint somebody to the position this evening.
Thank you, Allison. So we'll take option 3 and we'll throw it out the window because it's not gonna happen. So I guess I'll throw it out there as far as is there somebody right now on council that would,
I think I'd like to go with option 2 personally, see if the new person would be interested, and if not, I'd put my name in the hat. I don't want, I have a lot on my plate as already do, but I will not leave us stuck. I will get us out of the hole if we need to, but maybe the new counselor would be interested in that, and that might be something they're interested in.
I agree. I think it's a good opportunity. Yeah, I agree with
Same
that.
idea, wait till we get the new council and leave it open.
Yeah. There's not gonna be any burning changes that's gonna happen at that country. It's not like really precedent that we have it. They're gonna hit quorum, they're gonna have all this stuff. So we'll still get information back to as well. So it's a perfect, okay. So we're gonna change that, we're gonna adjust that to option 2. Yeah. Let Ally wordsmith that, say that, yeah, we'll wait until that person comes on, and
It might be something right up their alley.
it could be exactly, yeah, so I think it's a good opportunity to wait for that time, so.
If not, I just get less sleep. They say you sleep a lot when you're dead, so.
Sleep's overrated.
That's the time to sleep, yeah. Going. So moved by Councillor Abbas, and seconded by Councillor Crabtree, that council directs staff to proceed with option 2 for a money representative appointment of Valley Conservation Authority Board. Montague representative appointment to the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority Board. All in favor? And that's carried. Next is, as we continue along this journey of the municipal complex, the Class B estimate update, and then moving forward to tendering. So Ally can go through that.
Thank you, Chair. So the last revision was the Class D estimate that came forward to council. This is an updated report based on a Class B, which is not substantially different from the D, just because staff were so involved in the Class D estimate, to be honest, and providing pricing that we had on hand for various projects that were more reflective of today's market. Now, keeping in mind that we have discussed with CKA the Class B estimate, and there's still changes to before the tender documents go out. We have worked with them to prepare a pre-qualification of general contractors document, which is currently posted on Bid and Go. It closes tomorrow for the new fire station and public works building. So the document will basically have contractors provide their qualifications so that we're ensuring that people who have built similar post-disaster buildings and things like that are putting in the tenders, and we're not doing it at the tender time. So they have to meet that. We've had 20 companies take the document, and over 6, I think we're at 8, have now given an intent to respond to the pre-qualifications, which is great for us. Usually the more that respond, the more competitive the pricing is in the market at that time. So keeping in mind that this is, our next steps are that CKA and staff will review the pre-qualification documents received, make sure that people meet those requirements, then they get notification that they will be eligible to go towards the tender documents. The tender documents still have to be finalized with CKA and staff. CKA will prepare the tender documents and post on Bid and Go. The tender documents will be received and scored. Keeping in mind that in those tender documents, there is a component that states if available funding. So if for some reason the pricing comes back astronomical and not affordable for Montague, we're not tied into anything. We say, thanks for putting in your submissions. We can't afford this. We're not moving forward with the project. At this time anyways, or maybe it's that you go back out in 6 months. So we have gone forward. There's been issues with the well here for years. So if they wash any vehicle outside, we can't flush toilets. We have no water inside. So there will be a second well being drilled, whether the new building happens or not, because to be honest, it's a health and safety issue and a whole lot of other issues that we can't use toilets whenever we wash vehicles, and we want the vehicles washed because it keeps them in better maintenance and keeps all the sand and salt off them. So that will be proceeding through. So this is really for information at this time, because we still have, until we get tender documents with actual figures back, council has seen high level estimates and how it would be funded and those types of things. But until we get those tenders, it's really information.
Thank you, Ally. Yeah, that's it. A lot of it, you pretty well summed it up. I mean, we're going down a road that, you know, for something that we need, but we also have to make sure that we can afford it too as well. So I'd say, you know, we'll continue down this road and see what those estimates come back at.
So Jeff, I got a
Yeah,
question.
for sure, yeah.
So these tenders that they're gonna go out with, when you get the tender out, is there still things that can be changed, or is this just an approximate thing? And just one example, we talked before as council, we don't want a flat roof. So if you're putting a tender out, what are you tendering the building as?
So our tender is going to be reflective of our drawings.
Okay,
So our drawings don't have a flat roof.
okay.
We took all those comments from council, we included all those things, right? So it will be reflective of all those conversations and the drawing. It's a slight slope, but you do see a lot of those buildings of that size with a slight slope, but it is sloped. It's not a flat roof. I don't think anybody wanted a flat roof. So it will be reflective of that, and inclusive. Now, whenever somebody puts in a proposal or a tender, they always have the ability to include extras or provide extras at a different cost and things like that, because we're going very bare bones. So I know that even at the time when we meet with CKA, you know, they're saying, so you don't want any kind of sidewalk work and all these, and I'm like, no, simple, easy to plow, no replacement cost, right? All those things, simple, base, that's all we're looking for. So there's always an ability for us to do a change order. We're hoping not to do a lot of change orders because change orders cause a lot of extra costs when it's done after. So as council, we did take all of council's comments. All of those are included in these documents.
Thanks, Ellen.
Yeah.
But a company can also, when they bid, go all inclusive with minor exemptions. So sometimes they'll put in a little bit higher bid, but whatever changes that are made come at no cost. It's how we do a lot of our tenders. And gets us, because of the relationship we have with clients, we do a lot of extras, but we make the client happy and they get what they want. So it depends on how they word their documents and so on and so forth.
Yeah, hopefully this goes well. It's a tough time with costs and things going up and everything else. The only highlight that Ali brought up is that there's a bit of a lull in that construction business right now as far as building goes. We're getting a lot of attention for it. So, I mean, we can use examples of some of our roads. We've got a tender, we went out early. And we've got some really good pricing that helped us save hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, like, it's pretty crazy. So, I mean, like, hopefully this could be another one of those cases where we're lining up at a good time. So we'll continue down that road and we'll make sure that we are doing it in the most cost-effective ways we possibly can. So moved by Councillor Crabtree and seconded by Councillor Abbas, the council accepts the municipal complex Class B estimate and project update report presented this date as information. All in favor? That's carried. And the last one is the building permit fees, which I'm excited to talk about because it's something that hasn't been updated in a long time. And I know we've talked about it in the past to make sure that we're in the right competitive range. And Ali will give us a good overview of that. Take it away, Ali.
Thank you, Chair. So this is, a long overdue probably report to come to council. So our current building fees are from 2006. So for the past 18 years, there's been many changes in relation to the building department and wages and inflationary costs and changes to the building code itself. So we deemed it very imperative to get this back to council, to have these discussions on building fees and charges to better reflect the current market, because building, based on legislation, building can pay for itself, right? So it can be a neutral department where building pays to have the CBO, because the CBO is technically legislated under the province of Ontario, under the Ontario Building Code, not as much council. So we've collected data from comparable municipalities and neighborhoods. We've removed ones that were not comparable, like Perth, Mississippi Mills, those bigger operations that we don't have a lot in common with them. And provided kind of a highlighted overview of where we're at with the different building fees, where the average is, and where are recommended. So we're kind of recommending going to that average fee right now to at least get an update from 18 years ago, and make note that this should come back on a more regular basis to ensure that we are correctly applying fees to the building. So in the report, as I said, like, it can be a break-even department. We have been running deficit in the building department for years and years and years. So again, why this report's coming forward is that we need to try and make it more neutral as far as the costing. So, and whenever you look at the fees, we are substantially lower than other areas. And in some cases, like a pool permit doesn't even cover the fee that it costs us to pay the CBO to deal with that permit and go and do that inspection at the $50. So this evening is presented a draft for council's consideration. Again, we will have a public meeting. I believe that Kirsten and I plan on having a joint kind of public meeting in relation to parkland fees and building fees. We were gonna piggyback it and have an open house for the public to come in and talk to us and ask questions and those types of things. Because again, we want the feedback from the community. We want that type of information coming back. It makes our job a lot easier coming to council too. So this is the draft recommended. Again, my recommendation though is for this not to be 18 years till we look at it again, that it comes back on at least once per term of council, that it comes back and these types of things are reviewed. So when it comes back, that will also be in my resolution, that it gets looked at more often, because 2006 was a long time ago. Any questions, I guess?
Yeah, that's perfect, Ally. I think that, I mean, we talked about planning and building, once again, that was one of those pre-COVID things we kind of dabbled into, and then there was a lot of mess going on there. And we were able to tackle a lot of the planning stuff too as well, and get understanding of that fees and everything else, and development charges, and making sure that we're trying to get us, you know, a little bit more cost neutral. This one got pushed back, I think, on the back burner. We talked a lot about planning, about cleaning up files and all that kind of stuff back in 2020 and 2019. But now it's great that it's now finally we're getting it to council now to kind of discuss about making sure that we're exactly what you said, charging the appropriate, to try to make it as cost neutral as possible, because we like to make that, you know, if you're building something new, it's not on the backs of all taxpayers. It's you know, it's on the backs of the person that's building something new. So I think that's an important aspect to that too as well. So we're not far behind as far as being out. And I think when we get up to the averages and everything else, but it'd be great to hear from the public too, as well as we go through that process. So any questions from council as far as that goes? I think this is the right process. So
No, I think that's good.
yeah, it's great. So as far as the time frame goes, do you want to discuss that sort of like now, or as we go through the process? Like as far as like the amount of time to bring it back to council?
Oh, so we'll have a public meeting first, get feedback from the public,
And then we'll see.
and then we'll bring that feedback back. And then council can have another discussion, and then we'll move forward with a bylaw after that. Because there may be something that comes up from the public that we haven't thought of, right?
I meant with the
So,
reviewing of it, like we're gonna review it every 2
oh,
years or.
I would
Once
say
per
that it would be
council.
once per term.
Once per term is what we want to.
Because I would hate to hit, if you have a brand new council that you say, oh, we're gonna make it every 3 years, and that hits their first 3 months of being on.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one. It's nicer to kind of bring that forward maybe mid-term for them, but I mean, it's up to the clerk administrator at the time of when that would happen.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Perfect. So moved by Councillor Havas and seconded by Councillor Crabtree, that council approve the recommended changes to the building fees and charges bylaw presented this date. The council directed the clerk administrator to post for a public meeting to be held for comments for the public to adhere to the section 2.23 sorry, do that again, 2.23.1.2 of the Building Code Act. And the council directs the clerk administrator to bring back a report to finalize the changes with the adoption of a new bylaw. All in favor? And that's carried. Before I call this one to an end, do we have any questions from the audience as far as we went through all of that? Yes, Tom, for sure.
Yeah, on your classification of building permits, the fees, in there you don't list the seller, anything for a seller. And yet the document that Kristen is preparing, that we're reviewing also, lists the seller, explains the difference between a basement and a cellar. And here you don't have a cost for a seller.
Do you want me to take that?
Sure, Nick.
Okay.
I know the answer.
So Chair, through so the building code does not define a cellar. So a cellar is basically in the building code, it would be a basement, a variation of a basement. The zoning bylaw is a separate document. So the zoning bylaw doesn't necessarily, like, the building code doesn't care what our zoning bylaw is. So the building code does not define cellar. Cellar is a type of basement. Based on the building code, you cannot, and based on zoning, you can't live in something that is, what is it, mostly
It's 2/3.
2/3 underground. And under the Building Code Act, a basement it has to have another level above it. So you can't build a cellar and live in it based on the zoning. The building code is strictly in relation to the building itself, and it has to meet the code. So the code, there is no definition for cellar in the building code, so we can't charge a fee for something that there's not a definition for. So it's considered a basement under the building code. The zoning has two different definitions of what a basement is and what a cellar is. So basically, if you had a building that was 2/3 underground with no other floor above it, that's considered a cellar and you could not habitate it. We're not saying you can't build it, but it's gonna be for storage. So you're gonna have a
I
fee.
just think to clarification, maybe in the one that's not the building code, but the cellar definition in there, you should be sub-listed under a basement then. Because when you read the two documents, it sounds, like one talks about a cellar and what it is, and the other document, there's no such thing as a cellar. So I'm just thinking, is there some way you could
Get rid of the gray.
make
areas.
It would have to be in the zoning bylaw though, because.
the
you
zoning
can't change the
bylaw
They changed the building code.
and where it lists cellar is a basement, is part of a basement that is so far much underground.
You're just trying to get rid of that gray area is what you're.
Yeah, it's just confusing.
Yeah, so we'll take that comment for the zoning bylaw, because we can't change the building code. So we'll take that comment for the zoning bylaw, Tom, and see what, we can come up with there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Similar to this gentleman's question is crawl space, 4-foot basement foundation. So the thing is, you dig down to at the bedrock, or you put your gravel in, you put your sub pump in, you go up 4 feet, so it accommodates your pressure tank, sewage pump and stuff like that. Is that classified as a cellar, or is it classified as a basement or crawl space?
it's crawl space,
So
so,
it's left-
sure, sorry, do you want me to take this, or, okay? So thank you, Chair, so through that, so it's considered crawl space, we actually don't charge a per square foot fee for a crawl space.
Thank you.
It's no different than an attic. We don't charge fees for attics that are holding insulation and not doing, right? It's not a living space.
Yeah.
So with a home that has a crawl space, has to be a home, so you have to have a primary floor. If you have a crawl space that's less than, I think, 6'8", so as long as it's under 6'8" ceiling height, based on the building code though, I think it's a less than 6'8" or something like that, as it considers it a crawl space. And then same as with the attic, we don't charge the square foot for those spaces, okay?
Now, when you said a home, does that classify as a cottage as well, like a three?
Yeah, I'm just saying a livable,
Okay.
like a habitable space based on the building code. If it's under that, now, if you have a crawl space that has 8-foot ceilings, that's a basement,
No.
right?
I
Yeah.
understand. I just want
Yeah.
honest questions.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question.
Even 6'8", I mean, that's, my basement's not 6'8".
Mine
So
either.
so I guess having a crawl space.
I
on a basement.
could be wrong in that number. I just wanna say there is like a number that's set that anything under that is a crawl space and same as attic, it might be used for, cause some of the ones that are slab on grade, some of the attic spaces are used for holding your air conditioning unit or your furnace or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's not charged a square foot fee for that.
Thank you, honestly.
Yeah.
Good question, yeah. Mr. Vandermeer.
Thank you, Reeve, through you, Chair, and to Allison. Is veranda and patios considered as living space?
So those have a separate fee, right? So they're with decks and things like that. So that's a separate cost. It's not the same as a livable space. I think decks are 10 cents a square right now. We're gonna bump them to 20. So that's a different, it depends on, every individual home is different and every individual, so you need to speak to the CBO. But if it's like a deck, like a veranda that's just, it depends if it has a roof, it depends if all different things. You need to talk to the CBO. But if it's like considered a deck, it's at a lower rate.
Thank you.
Great.
One more question, I'll let you vote go home. The talk with the Rio Valley Conservation Authority, are they like fully in charge now? Because I was dealing with the Rio Valley Conservation Authority when I was doing my severances, real nice man, come out, took a look at the property, no problems, Byron, he says, I'll send you an email. He sent one to me and he sent one to Miss Stewart in the county. Your planner was here, or Smith Falls planner, Carl. Yeah, anyways, he sent an email off to Miss Stewart saying, oh, we need more than that. So Blue Metric got involved. Is Blue Metric no longer in the group no more?
Blue Metric is, I mean, is that a consultant company?
Well, what it is when I talked to the steward about it, because it cost me 4 times $10,000. How did she word it? She says, Rio Valley Conservation Authority has no longer any interest in doing the study. So what we do is we hired a consultant, which is Blue Metric. I had a engineering company, Perry, McIntosh Perry out of Perth, $10,000. It passed. They want more information. The second one, it passed. They wanted more information. There's 20,000. Did it 4 times, it cost me $40,000. And then the final question, did the Rio Valley Conservation Authority approve it? Well, you got the email. I was just wondering, is Blue Metric no longer involved now? Or are we dealing with the Rio
So
Valley?
that would be for like a water,
You're speaking of hydrogeological assessments.
Yes.
Right.
yeah,
But
RVCA does not do them any longer. The county has 2 companies that are on retainer. One is Blue Metric, the other is JP2G.
thank you. So
Yeah.
they're still not involved.
They don't review hydroges.
yeah, they're not involved. Yeah, they walked away from it too as well. So I think the planning department's another big too as well. It's like, I hear you because I've heard those discussions or those complaints from planning especially.
Yeah.
And it's been a big part. I mean, this is why we changed our course and we have Kirsten here too as well. That's helped sort of streamline things. We have changed the county as far as the way things go, and we're not done yet as far as
I
that
appreciate
goes.
that, because I talked to many engineers, because I've got a $225,000 invested in my retirement fund. So it's all said and done, I'll get $30,000 to retire on. I talked to several engineers and they said, whoever made the policy that you had to have a hydro G study done in a single resident home is off the wall. They're designed for subdivisions where there's lots of homes together. I'm not sure how that passed, he says, but take it up to your council. I hear him. So I just throw it out there, just, I don't want to wind you, I'm concerned that, there's a lot of people being, and then you see certain developers in the area that are building on 1 acre lots, and I didn't think that was possible either. Is this not a good time to bring this up, or should be another meeting?
So I mean, 1 acre lots are fine.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
any
there's-
lot less than 1 hectare in size automatically triggers the requirement for hydro G.
Yeah, with one.
So we allow 1 acre lots, but you're doing so on the understanding that you're going to be getting a hydro G.
I got 2 acre lots.
Yeah. So I'm not good with the whole
0.4 of a hectare is.
No, it's just-
Yeah,
is one
so based
acre.
on our current official plan,
Yeah,
if it's
2.5
1 hectare
acres.
or larger, no hydro G, unless something else triggers it.
And I know that I was talking, again, I apologize, for things up on you folks when I get home, but when I was talking to Ms. Stewart, she said, I drilled a well, you gotta put a well in your property. I said, why? Well, what about if the water's no good? Well, that would be something that the municipality would do up in the policy saying, yes, you can sell this lot, and the well is drilled when the owner drills it. And the thing is if it's not good, then the seller is accountable for it, not the municipality. That's something simple to wording, but it costs another $10,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And the thing is the person looking at my lot right now, he said, why would they put the well there? I wanna build my house over there.
And they don't allow that now. So now, there used to be an option, you could either do the well or the hydro G, and now it's
I know, it's not
hydro G
right.
only.
this is, sorry, Chris is giving you a good, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it used to be that you had an option to either drill the well and have a engineer certification or do a hydro G. Now you don't get to do the well, it's hydro G automatically if it's triggered. So, and I see the point, why would you want to build a lot to sell to someone else? You pick where the well's gonna go and they're like, that's where I would have put my house, it
Yes,
doesn't
ma'am.
make sense.
Yes, ma'am.
So now it's hydro G. They don't accept the well in lieu of a hydro
That's-
G.
Well, that's what hydro G is, because they come in and they brought a pump in and they pumped water in the well for 36 hours. I'm thinking, where's all the water go? Well, then I got in touch with the road superintendent. And his advice was, our policy is not to ditch your property, keep the water off the property, to ditch to get the road off. So I heard all the water, so it's just.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, because I mean, that's one of the things that we continue to, because I mean, I agree, we try to do the best we can for, to try to navigate that too, because
Yeah.
it gets costly for people too as
I
well.
with respect to your planner, I just wish you had qualifications to be the senior planner, because I'm serious. You
Thank
treat
you.
me with respect with all this, 4 years of it going on.
Yeah,
And county, they're off in saving the world somewhere else.
I think we've got a lot of changes there that have been I do understand what you went through. I think we're moving in the right direction. I agree. She should be a senior.
Thank you.
planner. She's amazing, but I think we're getting there. as
Better
far-
saying, no, that's the way
But
it is.
yeah, no, I agree.
Thank you, sir.
Nice.
Good.
There's other people in the audience who would agree with you though.
I'm not being-
Yeah, I have to get my head out that door.
Yeah,
so-
I'm
Thank you.
No, I appreciate it, and I know it's very, it's very respectful. And I agree. Like, I mean, it's been
We're not the
a,
city of Ottawa.
what?
Seriously, people come here because they want the rural experience, and then they go, oh, it's jumping, this is not what I thought it'd be.
Hmm.
And, but you guys are the good, I'm really impressed with this evening, I am, this one.
I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate that too, because I lost all, yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's,
You're welcome, sir.
any other questions? We can go home.
We gotta leave
I'm just
on this
kidding.
high note.
I'm just
Come
kidding,
on.
yeah, no. It's good. So we got no reports, committees, no petitions, no motions, unfinished business. We're done with that. So for adjournment, moved by Councillor Crabtree and seconded by Councillor Abbas, the committee of the whole meeting dated March 19, 2024, now be adjourned at 7:38 PM. All in favor? Nobody opposes. That's good. Thank you, everyone. That was, great discussion tonight. It was quite good. I enjoyed it. I'm sure Reeve Jennings really missed it, but she'll review it and let us know. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
They're always like this now?
What's that?
Your meeting?
Every 2 weeks.
No,
Yeah.
they're Pretty laid back like that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's
For you, when they.
We're real people.
the way that we
Yeah,
have to keep
well, one password.
it.
3 seconds.